I'd say there's two ways of doing that. No way and no how. Hello, my name is Will, and this is Exploding Jet Ski, the only podcast in the world dedicated to films where jet skis explode. Now, when you talk about films with jet skis, as you do whenever you're among sophisticated company, it's never long before the conversation turns inevitably towards the Citizen Kane of jet ski cinema, Waterworld. Not only is this film iconic in jet ski cinema, it's also one of the most hallowed tracks in the exploding jet ski canon. So, when you're reviewing a film of such profound artistic importance, there's really only one man who can do justice to the subject. He's the Roger Ebert of jet ski film criticism. It's Mark Hofmeyer from the Deep Blue Sea podcast. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Oh, thank you for having me. And to get ready for this, the importance of this, I bought a catamaran. I took it out to Lake Lanier in Georgia, and I am currently on a lake right now. I bought some like fruit trees, some veggie trees. I've been drawing all over my boat with crayons. Like, I am ready for this episode.
But did you drink your own urine?
Yeah, I did. It was kind of,
But do you do that normally?
I had to.
That's
I had
nothing.
to go on
That's
the dark
nothing to do
web.
with the podcast.
No, yeah. I mean, listen. When in Waterworld, be Waterworld, if that makes sense. You gotta, you gotta live the life. I'm wearing an eye patch. It's just crazy. People are looking at me. I'm getting some weird looks, and I've had two Coast Guard people, which is weird because I'm on a lake, come up to me. I don't know where they're coming from, but yeah, they're just saying like, "Hey, calm. We know the bit. We love it, but just watch it." So, I'm all about it today, and I'm fully ready for this. I lost about $75,000 on this boat, but it's worth it.
Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. I don't think anyone has done more to promote an appreciation of a jet ski cinema than you. So I guess the question is, why jet skis? How did this all begin for you?
It was 2017, and I remember, I think Baywatch came out, and then I was like, this is not a good movie, and there's a jet ski action scene. So I went back and I looked at all the other jet ski action scenes of the past, Kramer versus Kramer. No, I'm joking. Of past, and I just thought, man, jet ski action scenes are in movies that are notorious for having low tomato meter scores, low IMDb scores. They rarely make their budgets back. They are generally not thought of as excellent films. But I loved all of them. So I put an article out on Reddit, just threw it up. It took me 20 minutes to write, and it got 25,000 upvotes. And from there, like, a lot of articles have covered it. And I've just been living that jet ski life. And so, yeah, I love being the predominant jet ski. Let's see, like you said, I have my doctorate in jet ski, and I love being known as that. Like, I work for Rotten Tomatoes. I'm a freelancer for them, and I work on their show Versus. And there was just a Kristen Wiig versus Melissa McCarthy episode. And Mark Ellis, the host, made sure to bring up the jet ski scenes in Barb and Star and Tammy. So I've infiltrated the mainstream with my jet ski nonsense.
Well, excellent work, subverting cinema film criticism to make sure that there's always a ready appreciation of jet skis in there. I think, if I'm correct, I believe you recently conducted a poll to find the greatest or the most popular jet ski film of all time. Is that right? And if so, what came out on top?
Deep Rising.
Oh, yeah.
Which,
Treat Williams.
I mean, listen. He and Famke Johnson being chased by a gargantuan monster through a cruise ship while Treat Williams is hooting and hollering and one-shotting doors with a shotgun and then exploding from an exploding boat. I mean, and it's beautiful. It is. I mean, and that, what's crazy too, that and Hard Rain came out in the same year. So in the same year, we had two of the, if there's a Mount Rushmore of jet ski scenes, it is going to be Hard Rain, Deep Rising, Waterworld, and probably Police Academy 3.
So I'm getting the sense that year it's kind of like, perhaps in terms of jet ski cinema, it's perhaps what people look back on the 1970s, that sort of new Hollywood era. That sort of brief moment was the jet ski cinema equivalent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at late 60s, early 70s with what's the movie with John Voight and Dustin Hoffman?
Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy, Easy Rider, the late 60s cinema. 70s when it was hitting its stride. That is the 90s. That's like the jet ski era, I would say. They're equivalent. They're exactly the same. I mean, I remember John Frankenheimer was doing an interview, and he said, I should have put a jet ski chasing Ronin after he saw Hard Rain. So, I think it's really permeated our culture. in ways that we don't even realize.
Well, I look forward to this growing appreciation for jet ski cinema continuing. But I think it's time that we got stuck into Waterworld. So let's see if Trailer Man can tell us exactly when this film is set.
The future. The polar ice caps have melted, and the Earth lies beneath a watery grave. Those who survived have adapted to a new world.
What did you see out there in your 15 lunars?
Such as?
An end? An end to all this water?
You're asking the wrong person.
Pure dirt.
So what's the word? We trading or not?
And the human dream is the search for a mythical place called dry land.
It doesn't exist!
How can you be sure?
Because I sailed farther than most have dreamed. I've never seen it.
This place, this whole way of living, it's ending.
Straight line leading directly to dry land?
Dry land is not just our destination, but it is our destiny!
After the polar ice caps melt, most of the world is underwater and only a small number of humans survive. One of their number is the Mariner, a loner who sails the ocean, trading dirt for supplies. The Mariner reluctantly befriends Helen and her young companion Enola after they help him escape from a floating trading post after it's attacked by a hostile gang called Smokers. Since the sinister Smokers are pursuing our heroes in the belief that Enola holds the key to finding the mythical dry land, Kevin Costner heads up the cast here. Alongside him we've got Dennis Hopper, Jeanne Tripplehorn, and a supporting cast that includes Jack Black and Kim Coates. The film was directed by frequent Costner collaborator Kevin Reynolds. Script is credited to David Toohey and Peter Rader. Toohey, very well known name with lots of credits on films like The Fugitive and Pitch Black. Rader, scarcely a credit to his name apart from Waterworld. Pretty much the only other thing he did was write and direct the cult action movie Hired to Kill with Oliver Reed. So I'd be happy just with Hired to Kill on my cinematic CV, but there you go. Now, if the production history of films like Jaws or The Abyss have taught us anything, it's that films involving water inevitably suffer production problems and soaring budgets, and sure enough that was the case with Waterworld. Originally slated to cost about $100 million, it eventually came in costing $175 million, making it at the time the most expensive film ever made. The critical reception at the time wasn't good. Now I remember when this came out, and there was a lot of negative buzz around it, but it's fair to say that over the years the view of this film has become more positive. Currently it's got a 6.2 user rating on IMDb and 2.8 out of 5 user rating on Letterboxd. So with all of that out of the way, Mark, what did you make of Waterworld?
Yeah, I was 13 when it came out, and this is pre-internet. I mean, I guess internet was around. Star Trek had its website, but I didn't have any of that. But I just remember just through magazines and maybe Premiere or Entertainment Weekly, as a 13-year-old, I knew that this movie had production problems. I feel like that was everywhere. Everyone was talking about how it went over budget. They were talking about Costner getting a divorce. He and Reynolds were fighting. Tina Margarino, she wore a prisoner's outfit for one of their Halloween parties. Jeanne Tripplehorn said that she felt like a captee, and she ended up having she said she had Stockholm syndrome for the people that she was working for in this film. People were fired, people were gone. But here's the thing. For a 13-year-old Mark, this is the only film that I can think of that goes 3 for 3 on the Hofmeyer test. It features catapults, right? It features sea monsters. And it features jet skis. This is the only known movie to go 3 for 3. Aquaman has 2. Deep Rising has 2. Shark Night has 2. Kramer vs. Kramer has 2. But yeah, it's the only film to go 3 for 3 on the Hofmeyer scale. And I saw this, my mom dropped me off. I went and watched this movie, and just seeing the sea monster, the massive sets, the wide shots of Costner on the top of his catamaran, the atoll that, if we've learned, just wiped out like tons of steel and it sank, and just a massive expenditure. The practical effects, the story. Like, I didn't know about the ice caps when I was 13. I was like, this is just awesome. This is an awesome movie. And for me, I adore it. And watching it again, sure, there are some issues with it. You can see land during it. But I think it holds up because they built a lot of that stuff. Yes, there's some wonky CGI in here, which we'll talk about later, but it looks good. It's practically built. I think, there's different tones in it, but it's fun watching Hopper nowadays. I love his smokers. They have drag races in their boat. It's insane, but I love it. It's fun. I still haven't seen the Ulysses cut, but yeah, for a 13-year-old me, I didn't care about it going over budget. I just cared that it went 3 for 3 on the Hofmeyer test.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't picking up the check for the production of this movie, so what did you care what it ultimately cost anybody to make here? But yeah, I mean, I remember when this came out, and like you said, that there was terrible buzz about this film before its release, and I didn't actually see it until years after it came out. And I remember my first viewing, I was like, oh, this is a terrible film. But since I guess I was just sort of burdened, by the baggage of remembering all that negative publicity, knowing all of the kind of, the horror stories behind the production. And I guess, if you're going to spend nearly £200 million on a film, then dollars on a film, then it should be like really good. But since I kind of got over that baggage and just, on sort of subsequent viewings, just watch the film that's the story that's being told, watch the film that's in front of me. It's actually a really good. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say really good. It's actually a good film. It's very entertaining. It does feel like a film that's a little bit out of time. It kind of reminded me of those like B-movie apocalyptic films that were like churned out of Italy, sort of in the 80s, that sort of choked up the shelves of video stores when I was a kid. But so there's clearly a lot more money spent on this than on those films, and you do see that money on the screen. It's an entertaining film. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and there's an audience out there, because one of my most popular posts on Movies, Films, and Flicks, a website I run, I just wrote a post about the sea monster that the Mariner kills. I wrote that, and I wrote a data article I broke down the entire kill, because the boat left him behind after he killed that monster. So they had to like turn it around, or he had to swim to the boat, turn the boat around, get the monster meat. Did he pack up the monster meat? I have so many questions about this monster scene. Like, it comes so fast, he throws her in the water. And why are the jet ski people not getting decimated? I'm telling you, this scene from 1995 has never left my memory. And also the climatic scene that we're going to talk about with the triple explosion. Jay Cluitt, the co-host of Deep Blue Sea, the podcast, he brings it up all the time. So I live with exploding jet skis. I live with sea beast. Like, that sea beast misses him with all of its teeth, and then he's inside, and then he blows a hole through it. And how much meat? They can't get that much meat out of it. So here's this majestic sea beast, and they're just eating 4 pounds of it. I mean, I know it falls to the bottom of the ocean, becomes dead, like, whale fall, and like various critters can eat it, and the whole thing will be consumed in the ocean. But
it's a terrible waste. Well, it's a good point, because I have a lot of questions about this film, and I guess you shouldn't pick holes, but you kind of can't help it. I have seen this multiple times now, and more sort of some of these holes do start like becoming very hard to understand, because particularly on this viewing that I was getting really hung up on, was supposedly it's hundreds of years, or it's people have forgotten that humans ever lived on dry land. So it's hundreds of years since the Earth was profoundly changed by these melting polar ice caps. Yet everyone is still, well, not everyone, but Dennis Hopper and his crew are still slugging Jack Daniels back, and they're still smoking normal cigarettes. Like, where did they come from? And and if these supplies have lasted, like, how many did they have before?
You know what I love too, and I was thinking about that because I researched cigarettes and how long they're good for, and they're like probably 2 years. And if you open it, you have a couple days to smoke them. So I'm just thinking, who made these cigarettes in the future? Was there, I guess, let's say the polar ice caps melted 50 years from now. So maybe 50 years from now, someone invented the processed food of cigarettes, and then they're just able to get a hold of those. But yeah, like he's throwing cigarettes out. I'm like, they haven't seen land in what, 400, 500, 600, I don't know, 50, 80 years, and these cigarettes around. But I did notice one guy was watering down some vodka. So I wonder if that's how they make it stretch. That was a nice touch. There's a dude watering down his booze, and that made me very happy. But they have fire near their oil. They live on the edge. These are edge living smokers, and I love literally titled villains. It's just so hammy. Oh, makes me so happy. Yeah.
It would seem tobacco, the sort of continued tobacco production would seem quite a sort of non-essential industrial sort of endeavour in this post-apocalyptic vision of Earth. But there was another point that, again, it was only on this viewing that I sort of really sort of picked up on it, which was, is it ever explained in the film why somebody has tattooed a map of like dry land on a small child? Is that ever explained in the film?
No. It's not.
And it's never really explained how she gets out into the middle of, because we're supposed to believe that she's actually from dry land, but then she's obviously on this atoll being under the guardianship of Helen, but we never learn how she gets there or why she's there, do we?
Nope. That might be part of the Ulysses cut. But yeah, it's more of like a prophecy, I guess, that she has it. It's that's something when I was 13 I never thought about. So yeah, you know what's funny? I have never thought about that map on her back. I guess I've just always I ask the weirdest questions about movies. I just think about jet skis and sea monsters. But yeah, that caught me off guard. I've never once thought about that tattoo.
I don't think the scriptwriters thought a lot about it either, given the conversation we're just having here. But another thought that sort of popped up into my mind was, this is, in many ways, it's kind of Kevin Costner's only real action film. I mean, yes, he's made things like Wyatt Earp, and in more recent times he did one of those Europa Court films. He made 3 Days to a Kill, and did a film called Criminal, which I think came out around the same time, which kind of maybe fit into these sort of old man action type films. But in Kevin Costner's heyday, he always seemed to sort of want to make sort of sweeping epics or dramas, and I'm really surprised that he didn't make some sort of like he wasn't going to do sort of Arnold Schwarzenegger type action, but some sort of kind of cop film where he's got 24 hours to bust open a case or something, something perhaps sort of in the Lethal Weapon-ish type of kind of like action film. And why do you think it is that Costner is never really sort of like, this is pretty much the only sort of action film from the kind of like the pomp years as a kind of leading man actor?
Now you got me wanting to see him in a Crank remake, because that would be insane. I really think it's just his. I think when I think about Costner, I just think of a really laid back dude, and maybe he just. Yeah, that's a really wonderful question, because there is action in Robin Hood, but it's definitely more of a character piece. He does cut a good action hero in this. He was 45 when he shot this, which is pretty impressive considering like how good a shape he was in. But yeah, maybe he's just I think he must just like character pieces more. I think he just realized his strength maybe pretty early on, because he was in Silverado too. And you know what's interesting? He was really silly in Silverado, and he hated that. So I wonder if he just wanted to he did not like being silly. That's like one of his only silly roles. So maybe he just found a good niche that fit his acting range, and then he just rode that for 3 decades, if that makes sense.
I think it does make sense to me, because I do find it actually hard to picture in my mind the sort of action film around 90s Kevin Costner. But Hollywood is notorious for trying to put square pegs in round holes, and I'm just surprised that I'm surprised that we don't there isn't at least one film sort of from that period where they try to turn him into, I don't know, the next Mel Gibson. It's very strange.
I think he's one of cinema's best walkers. So I don't think he would want to do a running movie. Just think about his walk now. Remember in Hidden Figures, he's walks with a purpose. In Field of Dreams, he can walk really relaxingly. In Bull Durham, he can have a strut while walking. Dances with Wolves, he does a little dancing, he does a little running, but he does a tiny bit of run, a lot of walking in that one. Wyatt Earp, in Open Rage during the gunfight, he's walking a lot. So I think, much like Tom Cruise realized that he's a great runner, I think Costner realized he was a good walker. And that's why there's sporadic violence in his movies. If you look at Untouchables, if you look at maybe Revenge, The Bodyguard, Wyatt Earp, Open Range, 3,000 Miles to Graceland. There's always sporadic violence. So yeah, I think in golf he walks, right? He's a walker. Baseball, a lot of walking. I think he's a catcher in one movie. You don't move much. So yeah, I think he's a good walker, and he wanted to stick with that. Maybe that's my other theory.
But I think, well, in fact, I know we're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to be looking at the exploding jet ski action.
In a world where podcasts already seem to address every imaginable subject, one man broke new ground with a seemingly random obsession about exploding helicopters in movies. He was a podcaster on the edge, a maverick broadcaster who played by his own rules. Now, he has a last chance to talk about the strange way helicopters explode in film. Exploding Helicopter, available on iTunes and Podomatic now. Think you know about chopper fireballs? Think again.
We're back, and now we're looking at the exploding jet ski action. We get an early taste of personal watercraft combustion when the smokers attack the floating atoll. Part of their raid involves jet skis making death-defying leaps over the compound's perimeter walls. Racing up a ramp that the smokers have erected, a jet ski clears the wall. It gets hit by gunfire from one of the other smokers and explodes. There's another one, very brief one, a little bit later, when a rideless jet ski crashes into the wall of the atoll and blows up. Then at the film's denouement, we get the exploding jet ski coup de grace, dropping down from a hot air balloon. Kevin Costner sort of bungee jumps into the ocean to rescue Enola. Dennis Hopper and a couple of his goons race towards the kid on their jet skis, but Costner and the kid zoom upwards out of the ocean just as the three jet skis converge on one another, and the floating motorcycles crash into one another and explode spectacularly. So, Mark, what did you make of the exploding jet ski action?
So first and foremost, I recorded. So there's 9 minutes and 27 seconds of jet skis on screen in Waterworld, so we can log that for all of our other episodes. So I sat there with a stopwatch and I recorded all the jet ski action. So I think the only movie that can probably match it is Hard Rain, because there's a lot of jet ski action in that. But yeah, I mean, it's quite varied. But I also think they showcase the lack of. There's a limit to what you can do on a jet ski. And I think what I love, too, is the first exploding jet ski, it hits a ramp and gets blown up by accident. Great gag. Chuck. Good old Chuck. Lights up. I mean, that's a great gag. The second one, that jet ski just explodes. It touches a wall and blows up. So, if you are a jet ski henchman in this world, if you're a smoker, for one question, I'll be real quick. Would you rather be a jet ski henchman or a motorcycle henchman? Which one would you rather be?
Ooh, I'm just gonna say motorcycle. I'm not really sure why. I guess I'm just more familiar with films with motorcycles.
You live on the edge. I like it. What I like about this one is when so many henchmen get wiped out. Costner wipes out 12 motorcycle henchmen in one when they try to trap him. But I like with a jet ski. I'm sorry. With a jet ski, you can just fall off. So you're just riding. Oop! I crashed. You're in the water, which is kind of beautiful. So I think I would be a jet ski henchman. I would be a jet ski guy, I think.
Yeah, you're not gonna have your your flesh ripped off falling off a jet ski in the way that you would if you come off a motorcycle at 70 miles an hour. So actually, you're talking me round to if I do have a career as a mindless goon to some maniac villain, then I would probably want to be a jet ski henchman now, actually, rather than a motorcycle one.
And now we know how to survive if we are jet ski henchmen. So in Hard Rain, the guy falls for a trap on Slater and he drives in the stairs and he falls into a trophy case and dies. And in Waterworld, the guy hits a ramp and gets shot by a gun. We should not be the ramp jet ski people. We should be under the water jet ski people. All right. So that's one way to survive. 3, just if you're going for a child in the water, don't drive straight at the other person. Right? Go at an angle. Maybe like, hey guys, I'm going here, you go here. So that way we all 3 don't hit each other and explode. So that's another way. I mean, the deaths in this, the exploding jet skis in this, the other jet ski explodes because the guy leaves his jet ski and jumps on the boat and gets killed. So I think, yes, there are ways to survive being a jet ski henchman that you won't, like in Villainess or John Wick 3, you're dead. So, yeah, I think what this movie teaches us is when this world is flooded and you and I become overlords, we will have a training school for our jet ski henchmen. And we will put them through the ringer to teach them how to not foolishly die or blow up an important jet ski. Because I only counted 16 jet skis, max, when they're attacking these people. So these are valuable commodities. So, yeah, I mean, if I had to I ranked the action scenes featuring, I counted 6 moments of jet ski action, and I think I like the first one the most, when they get the lime stealer, because they are like the vultures of Waterworld. Instead of flying, they ride a water motorcycle. So I like that they can't get the mariner, so then they just take the other dude and shoot him and take all of his stuff. I love that. I mean, I love the atoll attack. I'm a big fan of that one. Also, too, like, the trap scene, they're underwater, hanging out. How long did that take to set up? How long have they been there? You would see that from a long ways away, them just sinking each and every one. They had to tie the bodies up. How are they getting around him? And then other boats come up later. You know what? When they escape that attack, Mariner's like, okay, let's go underwater for 3 hours now. So, of course they're going to catch up to him. I rant. But yeah, I also love, the jet ski ramps. I love the jet ski jumps. And then I love the jet ski jumps at the end. The 2 henchmen jump out of the boat on fire. Oh my gosh. And Costner uses a jet ski as a weapon. He crashes it into a guy. It's beautiful. This is everything you need to know for jet ski henchmen to watch this movie. This would be my video to show everybody. And I'll give them cigarettes as well, and watered down vodka while watching. But yeah, I mean, you're right. This is the Citizen Kane of jet skis, because there's so many varied ways. They're jumping out on fire. They're killing people. Good people are on them. Bad people are on them. They explode. There's limits. I mean, man, this is the best part of this movie. This and the sea monster and the catapults that we see for 3 seconds. But yeah, that's my rant on the jet skis. But yeah, I like it. I think there's a lot of limits, but maybe they rigged them out. Who knows? Maybe they explode though. I've lost it here. But yeah, these you gotta understand. This is like Christmas for me. This is talking about Waterworld is just, and jet skis, like, just makes me so happy. Like my day my day's just gonna go down from here. I'm just gonna be kicking rocks somewhere sad. After talking about all this.
You're making me feel very sad. I mean, and that is your days downhill from here. That's affecting me more deeply than I anticipated. But yeah, I mean, just overall, the amount of jet ski action in this film is fantastic. As you said, they're used in so many different ways. I never thought I'd live to see sort of like jumping jet skis, and we see that, them going up ramps, just kind of coming out of exploding ships. I love the ingenuity, as you said, of that of the trap where they're kind of chained to the seabed to kind of keep them out of view on the horizon. And then obviously you want to see I like to see any vehicle explode, and particularly I like to see a jet ski explode. And the one, as you mentioned, the one at the beginning in the atoll attack that's destroyed by the smoker's own henchmen. Fantastic, brilliant explosion. As it's flying through the air, explodes and crashes, explodes again. And then I enjoyed the ending a lot, because it just felt like they did well. There are so many ideas in this film. There's so much creativity, but it kind of felt a little bit like, okay, we're out of ideas here. How are we gonna wrap? How are we gonna wrap this up?
We gotta kill this guy.
Yeah, we gotta kill all these guys. Let's just have them crash into one another, and we're out of here. But superlative jet ski action and superlative exploding jet ski action. That's Waterworld in a nutshell.
Man, and those
they should have made that the tagline of the film.
On the poster with your jet ski I wish Roger Ebert was like jet ski thrills, and then that's on the box. I would want that so bad. But during the end, they went to California to finish it, and Costner, they had so much money they had to do, and Costner just wanted it over with, so he was like, I'll just do the bungee jump stunt with the rope that shouldn't bungee at all. It's just a rope. Yeah, you're welcome, Jake Lewitt. I know you wanted to hear that. But yeah, Costner wanted to do it, and they're like, hey, can you do another one? He's like, no. So they just did one of those on a back lot in L.A., and then they probably, man, it's such a bozo death. And, in my notes, when the Mariner escapes the jet skis, I just wrote chumps. Like, that was my one note for that scene. But has there been a less dignified death from a main villain? Like, Hans Gruber had a great send-off. Even in Speed, Dennis Hopper, he gets a weird... When Dennis Hopper gets decapitated in Speed, Keanu Reeves goes, yeah, but I'm taller. Because I think he's taller than Dennis Hopper now, that Dennis Hopper lost his head, which, I think Joss Whedon worked on Speed and Waterworld. I think he did punch-ups on both. But, Dennis Hopper gets some weird deaths in movies now. I gotta look into this.
Okay, I think that just about wraps things up for this episode of Exploding Jet Ski. Mark, thank you very much for lending your expertise to this podcast. Before we go, do you want to take a moment to tell people where they can find your work online?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to moviesfilmsandflicks.com, Movies, Films, and FLIX. You can also find the podcast online. We were just number 1 in Peru. The Dominican Republic. We were number 3 in Spain, number 4 in Italy. Number 3 and 5 in Israel. So MFF podcast, we're doing really well. I call it the Paul W. S. Anderson podcast because we do really well overseas and decent in the United States. Which I love Paul W. S. Anderson. Listen, 25 years, don't get me started. But yeah, I'm a big Paul W. S. Anderson fan. But yeah, you can find it there. Listen to that podcast. You can listen to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. You can listen to that wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, I work for Rotten Tomatoes, so you can listen to the Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong podcast, and you can listen to Versus. You can hear some jet ski mentions in the Kristen Wiig versus Melissa McCarthy episode, also in the Rock versus Jason Statham episode, and we have a Deep Blue Sea episode for Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong. I'm not on it, but I pulled the research. But we had Saffron Burrows, and she answered some questions that I've had for a long time, so it's a wonderful episode. You can listen to those. And then last but not least, I work for The Film Theorist, so I write scripts for them. So you can go online, type Mark Hofmeyer Film Theory. I got a crazy couple episodes coming out, so you can find me there. And I work for Fandom, like Screen Junkies. I do their by the numbers videos. So I just did a Jackass one. I have a Spider-Man one coming out, and then I have a Tom Cruise one coming out. So you can go to Fandom and watch the videos there.
Well, I mean, you may never need to view new internet content again just to catch up with everything Mark's involved in. I mean, if you manage to get through all of that and you still got some spare minutes in your day, then feel free to check out the Exploding Jet Ski website for reviews of films where jet skis explode. We'll be back soon, but until then, keep watching the water for those exploding jet skis.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
What is this? Get those chains off her. What are we, barbarians here? Goodness gracious, sakes alive. Come on out of here, you big nasty animal, you. Rub-a-dub-dub. You want to come over here and sit on my lap? No? How about a cigarette? Nothing like a good smoke if you miss your mom. Never too young to start.